Can you just imagine a world where the person in charge, the king, could just throw you in jail?
For no reason at all.
Yeah, just because he's having a bad day or, I don't know, doesn't like your hat, no trial, nothing.
It sounds terrifying, doesn't it? And that's pretty much the world we're talking about today. We're looking at 13th century England and a king so terrible his own people basically had to write a rule book for him.
We're talking about King John and the Magna Carta. And this story is all about power, money, and really the birth of what we think of as our basic rights.
Exactly. But before we get to the famous document, we have to start with the man who made it all necessary.
Okay, so let's get into it. King John was born way back in 1166. He was the youngest son of King Henry II and the very famous Eleanor of Aquitaine.
And being the youngest son back then was a serious problem. Land was everything, and his older brothers were already promised all the good stuff.
So he had nothing.
Pretty much. He even got a nickname for it, Lackland.
Lackland. That's got to hurt your reputation when all your power comes from, owning land.
Absolutely. He did eventually become king, though, in 1199 after his brother Richard the Lionheart died. But he already had a reputation for being difficult. He'd even rebelled against his own father.
And right away, he runs into this huge problem. The empire he inherits is massive, but there's one part he just can't hold on to.
France. The single biggest disaster of his reign, really. He lost the key region of Normandy in 1204 to the French king, Philip II.
And this wasn't just losing a piece of land, was it?
No, it was an earthquake. Normandy was like the ancestral home of the English nobility. It was also a massive source of money trade, taxes, everything. Losing it was humiliating, and it was financially crippling.
So he spends the next 10 years just desperate to get it back,
Well,
pouring money into it.
wasting money is how the barons saw it. And it all ends in this one final crushing defeat in 1214 at the Battle of Bouvines.
And that's it.
That's it. The French lands are gone for good. And the English barons are looking at the bill and thinking, we paid for all of this for nothing.
Okay, so he's lost a huge war, he's broke, and the nobles are angry. What does he do next? He decides to pick a fight with the Pope.
Yeah, not his smartest move. This was a huge fight with Pope Innocent III over who should be the next Archbishop of Canterbury.
The most important church job in England.
Exactly. John wanted his guy, the Pope wanted his, and neither would back down. So the Pope used his ultimate weapon, the interdict.
So what did that actually mean for the average person?
It meant all the churches in England were closed. For years, think about that. No weddings, no baptisms, and worst of all, no proper Christian burials.
That would have been terrifying for people back then.
It was. It created mass panic. And then the Pope went even further and excommunicated John himself, kicked him out of the church.
So in the eyes of his deeply religious people, the king is now condemned by God.
Right. He eventually had to crawl back to the Pope and give in on everything. He even had to declare that England was a fiefdom of the Pope.
What does that mean, a fiefdom?
It means he basically handed over the country's independence to the church to get back in its good graces. It was seen as this profound national humiliation.
Okay, so he's alienated the barons, lost a war, and humiliated the country in front of the church. And he's still broke.
More broke than ever, which leads to the real problem for the barons: taxes. John started raising taxes to levels nobody had ever seen before.
This is where he gets really creative with making money.
Oh, yeah. He especially abused something called scutage.
Scutage. That's the tax barons paid so they wouldn't have to fight in a war.
It was, and it was normal. But previous kings might ask for it, say, 3 or 4 times in 20 years. John demanded scutage 11 times in just 15 years.
Wow.
Sometimes he demanded even when there wasn't a war going on. It was just a cash grab.
And it wasn't just scutage, was it? He found other ways.
All sorts of ways. If a baron died, his son would have to pay a massive fee just to inherit his own family's land. John would charge insane amounts.
And what about widows?
He was particularly awful to wealthy widows. He'd force them to pay him huge sums of money for the right not to be married off to one of his friends.
So your entire future, your property, your family, it all depended on keeping the king happy and paid off.
Exactly. The barons saw him not as a king, but as a tyrant who was just stealing their inheritance. They felt their basic rights were being completely trampled.
And this finally boils over in 1215.
It does. The most powerful barons have just had enough. They get together, they raise their own private armies, and they openly defy the king.
They actually call themselves the Army of God and Holy Church.
Which is brilliant marketing, really. It gives them the moral high ground, and they march on London.
And the people of London just let them in.
They welcomed them. They were tired of John, too. So the rebels take control of the capital city.
It's important to say, though, their goal wasn't to overthrow him, was it?
Not at first, no. They wanted something different. They wanted to force him to agree in writing to follow the law and respect their traditional rights.
So John is cornered. He's lost his capital city. The most powerful nobles are armed and united against him. He has to choose.
It's either a full-blown civil war or a meeting. He reluctantly agrees to a meeting.
Which brings us to this famous spot. Runnymede, in June of 1215, a meadow by the River Thames.
And the location was chosen very carefully. It was boggy, marshy ground.
Why there?
Because it made a surprise cavalry charge almost impossible for either side. It forced them to talk, not fight. John was there, but he was surrounded by the Baron's army. He was under immense pressure.
He really didn't want to sign anything that would limit his power. He believed he was chosen by God.
But he had no choice. The armed barons forced his hand. On June 15th, 1215, he attached his royal seal to their document.
The Magna Carta, the Great Charter.
Written in Latin on a big piece of parchment, so dried sheepskin.
And a lot of the 63 clauses in it are, super specific to the time. Things about taxes and the rights of the church.
Oh, yeah. There's even a famous one about removing fish traps from rivers.
Right. But hidden in all of that are a few ideas that completely change the world.
The biggest one is what we now call the rule of law.
Which is the idea that everyone, even the king, has to follow the law. The law is bigger than the ruler.
That was revolutionary. Before this, the king was the law. Whatever he said went. This flips that whole idea on its head.
And two clauses in particular are the ones we still talk about today. Clause 39 and Clause 40.
Clause 39 is the big one. It says that no free man could be arrested or imprisoned or have his property taken away except by the lawful judgment of his peers.
Lawful judgment of his peers. That's the foundation for a trial by jury, isn't it?
It's the very beginning of it. At the time, it meant a baron had to be judged by other barons, not just thrown in a dungeon because the king felt like it. It was this first real check on the king's personal power over someone's freedom.
In Clause 40.
That was a promise from the king. To no one will we sell, to no one deny or delay right or justice.
So the justice system has to be fair and available to people?
Exactly. Now, you have to remember, this only applied to free men at the time, which wasn't everybody. But the principle was so powerful that it grew over centuries to protect everyone.
Okay, so you've got this amazing document. But the big question is, how do you make a king like John actually stick to it? He's not exactly known for keeping his promises.
That's where Clause 61 comes in. This was maybe the most radical part of the whole thing. It set up an enforcement committee, the Council of 25 Barons.
A council of 25 barons. And what could they do?
Their job was to watch the king. And if they decided he had broken any of the promises in the Magna Carta, they had the legal right to seize his castles, his lands, his property, anything but the king himself, until he fixed the problem.
Wait, so they wrote legal rebellion into the contract?
That's basically what it was. It made the barons the official supervisors of the king. You can see why it's considered sort of a very early ancestor of Parliament.
And John must have absolutely hated that.
He was furious. He felt it was a total insult to his royal dignity, and he had absolutely no intention of following it.
So what did he do?
Almost the minute he left Runnymede, he sent a message to the Pope. He argued he'd been forced to sign it under duress, with an army at his back, and so it wasn't legally valid.
And the Pope agreed with him.
He did. Pope Innocent declared the Magna Carta null and void. He called it shameful. The whole peace treaty lasted less than 3 months.
And the barons' reaction?
Fury. Absolute fury.
Hmm.
The country immediately plunged into a civil war called the First Barons' War. They were so done with John that they actually invited the Prince of France to come over and take the throne.
The whole country was in chaos. But then John's famous bad luck kicks in one last time.
It does. In October of 1216, he's traveling and he gets really sick with dysentery.
And that's not all that went wrong on that trip, is it?
No. In a kind of fittingly disastrous end, he tried to take a shortcut across a tidal bay called the Wash. He timed it wrong. The tide came in, and his entire baggage train, with all his royal treasure, including the crown jewels, was washed away.
Wow. He lost the crown jewels in the mud.
A few days later, he was dead. He was only 49. And because he was so hated, his death actually brought a sense of relief to the country.
And that's what saved the Magna Carta?
Exactly. John's son, Henry III, was only 9 years old. The people ruling for him needed to end the war fast. So what do?
They reissue the Magna Carta.
Immediately. Not because they were idealists, but as a smart political move to win back the barons and stabilize the country. And that's what cemented its place in history.
So even though it was a total failure in 1215,
It survived because John died, and later kings kept reissuing it over and over again, confirming its principles. It became this incredible symbol of liberty.
and its ideas just spread everywhere.
All over the world, their direct influence on things like the U.S. Bill of Rights and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the idea that government power should be limited.
It's amazing that we still have 4 of the original copies from 1215, a physical reminder that even a terrible ruler can, by accident, cause this huge leap forward for freedom.
The whole idea that a king had to answer to his people, that was the game changer. King John's real legacy isn't all his failures, it's that he was so bad he forced people to write down their rights for the very first time.
It's a great reminder that sometimes progress isn't made by great leaders. It's forced into existence by the spectacular failures of truly awful ones.
Good luck with your studies.